Mr. Speaker, I rise in opposition to this motion to instruct conferees. For too long, we have debated whether this nation should take a stand against the scourge of hate crimes, crimes of violence in which the victim has been singled out because of who he or she is. It is remarkable that at this late date this should remain a controversial idea. The idea that someone could be singled out for a crime of violence because of his or her actual or perceived race, or religion, or color, or gender, or sexual orientation, or gender identity, or disability is simply disgusting. These crimes are real, and they are all too frequent. That is a fact. It is not, as some would have you believe, a hoax. Here are the most recent statistics from the FBI. In 2007, there were 7,621 violent hate crimes, 51% because of racial bias, 18% because of religious bias, 17% sexual orientation bias, 13% because of ethnicity or national origin bias, and 1% because of a bias against a disability. Those are real Americans being victimized because of who they are, not for anything they did. And when you victimize someone for who they are, you are terrorizing an entire community. It sends a clear and unmistakable message that members of that group are not safe in your community. It extends well beyond the individual victim. This House has already spoken clearly. On April 29th of this year, a bipartisan majority voted by a margin of 248 to 175 to pass this legislation. I do not believe that members of this House will now turn their backs on that historic vote. If you believe it was right to vote for this legislation, then you now have the chance to make it law and to make history. The Hate Crimes Prevention Act will in no way undercut the other purposes of this defense bill. In fact, by protecting all Americans from the scourge of violent hate crime, we will be making everyone more secure. A new section added by the Senate prescribes severe penalties for anyone assaulting a member of our military or destroying their property because of that person's being a member of the armed forces. I happen to think that's an important addition. I hope there won't be a single member of this House who will fail to support that provision against hate crimes against the military. I certainly think it belongs in this bill. I also want to be sure everyone understands that this bill contains express safeguards against prosecutions based on someone's speech or religious beliefs. This legislation applies only to acts of violence. And despite the statement a moment ago, the fact that somebody ignorantly arrested someone against the law and that the charges were subsequently dismissed says nothing about the validity of the law. Every crime requires that the government prove some element of intent, and we punish crimes differently based on the criminal's intent. Shooting someone as a crime of passion is not treated the same way as shooting someone in a murder-for-hire scheme, and it is certainly not the same as an accidental shooting. The law makes these distinctions, as it should. This does not make murder-for-hire a thought crime. Society simply judges such crimes more harshly, and it is right that we do so. It is the same with hate crimes. These are particularly disgusting crimes, and they deserve to be treated differently than other assaults or murders. I realize that not everyone believes this, but there's a growing social consensus on this point, both in the states and at the national level. For many years, this Congress sat on its hands and refused to pass anti-lynching laws. Many of the same arguments we heard then against anti-lynching laws, we are hearing now against this provision. It was a disgrace then, it is a disgrace now. It was a disgrace that we act then. It would be a disgrace if we do not act now. It would be a disgrace if we pass this motion to instruct conferees. I urge rejection of this motion.